or any affidavits, adverse or otherwise, should be circulated to members in good time. So going forward, Florence, arrange to do that, especially for the remaining nominees.
So, Chairman, I then did an affidavit to respond to Sheila Masinde, and I did forward yesterday, but for a moment I was a bit disappointed because my name and my character was put to question for several years through a document that was placed before Parliament, and I would expect that Parliament should protect its citizens so that we do not work down careers of serious citizens in this country when people make allegations. But I was also quite happy that the Approval Act of Parliament does require that submissions of any adverse concern about anybody be done through an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, so that we do not have claims and mischief of people trying to pull out down people's characters. So in terms of the vetting process, I think it was well thought out that, Chairman, we do require that we do sworn affidavits, and so that the face of the person complaining and not unnecessarily pulling somebody's character and career down is able also to stick out and say, I want to stand against an integrity issue, and therefore be able to corroborate what exactly the challenge is. As regard the concern of generation and transmission, which was raised by, again, Mheshimiwa Anthony Chungwa, it's cross-cutting from what Mheshimiwa Gladys Boshole did ask, and I think I've touched on that question, but let me just go into one area of why I think we really need to address the power sector, the cost of energy in this country. There's been for a while, I think because of the monopoly of Kenya Power, or what would actually, I think the Energy Act 2019 has addressed that monopoly to some extent. It's just implementation. But to a very good extent, the customer service, which is really more of a big challenge that we need to address, because we look at customers, and a customer is a person who buys and buys again. They are not buyers. We really are permanently with Kenya Power and Lighting, and we need to have a relationship with Kenya Power in terms of understanding. Even the bill is so complicated. We need to really understand and improve the customer service and customer relationships. In my MBA course, Chairman, I did put deliberately a document on one of my term papers. One of my term papers, Chairman, in my MBA is a case of a company which was in medical insurance called CRM Implementation Failure at Cigna Corporation, which when I review today tells the story about our energy sector in terms of failure to recognize customer relationship and more dealing with being just transactional basis. And I would like to encourage members to look at that term paper. It almost reflects how we behave in the energy sector to our customers, how when our numbers are, the bottom line numbers are not adding up, we push it to the customer instead of mapping out change strategy to address.
That is very good. Tell the committee what we are going to do to stop this.
It's one of my first assignment, Chairman, to basically look at the cost structure of our parastatals. I think we generate power, for example, at $4, $5 on the renewable energy, and when we give it to Kenya Power to distribute, they distributed another 4 to 5 cents. It's not acceptable. And so we must look at our distribution cost to be able to bring down the cost of power. We must look at the strength of the network in a very structured way. We must decouple. I think what we did sometimes was the generator is KenGen, the transmission is Kentraco, the off-taker is Kenya Power. But if you seriously look at how we operate today, sometimes and rare does the social obligation of doing the last mile and the providing power to our homes. When you look at the decoupling of services between Kenya Power and REA, I think REA today is called REREC, Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. You cannot draw a clear line on who does what. Kenya Power tend to do more of social work, which cannot really, as a commercial entity, the social work should be done by REA, and which is funded by government. So we don't fund REA, and yet the work is being done by Kenya Power, and then they owe one another. De-risking the fields for geothermal development. Building power generations today, which is the space for KenGen, and Kentraco and Kenya Power, you can't distinguish where transmission ends and where distribution starts. So we need to sit down as a team and work on full decoupling and understanding the role of one body against another body. If Mheshimiwa Hussein wants to pull some power in Pokot South to some end, it is the role of REREC to do that, not Kenya Power, as a social obligation. And we will bring budget to the House to support that, to ensure that the last mile is fully covered, and not use a commercial entity like Kenya Power, who then loads the losses to the customers in the commercial sectors, and we end up losing our serious businessmen because of cross-subsidy. The subsidy should be left and be done within the social context of REREC, and we leave Kenya Power to do the more commercial work as an off-taker, pay KenGen what is due to the generators and the PPPs. I'm told today KenGen is owed, and the other PPPs are owed over 23 billion because of failure of Kenya Power to pay. So, Chairman, there is work to be done. We're going to do it, and I understand that space to a very good extent.
Davis, we are not doing very well on time.
Let me
we'll spend about 30 minutes,
I think,
on two questions.
Chairman, I've answered to a very good extent Mr. Wandai's question of
Chicken
Gate. And I think the only challenge is really, yes, it was in the public domain. I do also expect that my members of parliament to defend me to some very good extent, so that I should not have been out for several years on an allegation and a file that had been closed. So, and you owe me for not, it came to the House should have, not just for Chirchir, the House should really protect Kenyans so that we don't trample on people's careers.
Mr. Speaker, just a point of order. Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Chirchir is making very serious allegation that I should have helped him to get back to the cabinet, when you know very well that the coalition that formed the government was not my coalition. Really.
Chair, I think with your permission, the nominee might not be very wrong, because he is aware that eventually the person who had asked the CS to step aside, President Uhuru Kenyatta, ended up being a leader in the party that Honorable Pio Wandai is now leader of.
You didn't have to cross to our side.
Yeah.
You know, our side is angry.
With your permission,
Yes.
it's only that we want to stay with the decorum as you ordered.
Yes.
I almost veered off to election rigging and other issues. I just left. I told Ushunga I'm not going there.
Can we have the next batch? Owen, Robert, Rugara, and Koech. Davis and honorable members, we are doing very poor on time. Now, please ask precise questions. Let's get precise answers.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair, thank you very much, Davis Chirchir. I would like to ask you a question on, in terms of power you use, electricity and the productivity of water, that the tariff used for producing water using electricity is higher than that of street lights. And areas like the coast where you have to pump water up, and other areas in this country where you have to pump water that goes up to homes, the cost of production is very high, such that water companies in those areas cannot break even because they spend more money on electricity than for the water. And yet the policy at the ministry has not changed for many years, and that people are suffering, that there's a lot of water power disconnection in waterworks by KPLC because they are demanding that they be paid the commercial tariff. And yet you find that streetlights have a special tariff. What are you going to do about this to ensure that we say water is life, water is the engine of all productivity in this country, and actually there's a correlation between poverty and water? How are you going to assist the other ministry to ensure that we have water and there's no interruption?
Robert Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to refer the committee to page 5 on the documents presented for this nominee. Office of the Chief of Staff of the Deputy President, considering that the Deputy President's own salary is only 1.2 million per month.
Thank you, Chairman. Nominee, after water in life, electricity is next. So the ministry you're being vetted for is one of the most important in the country, especially to the rural persons who are yet to see electricity. The unit for measuring supply of connectivity of electricity in the country are constituencies. And the problem we have is the disparity between some constituencies and others, such that I talk about my own constituency, which in 2017 was at 9.5% connectivity. In spite of every work I did in 5 years, we were able to move it up to a maximum of 30%. There are other constituencies, and I have data of that, who are now at 100%. My question to you is this: what are you going to do to reduce or remove the disparity between constituencies, whether rural or urban, as far as electricity supply is concerned? Because Kenyans out there are now waiting to be connected to the national grid.
Honorable Courage.
Waziri, mine will be in Kenya Power. Actually, the story of the energy sector starts and ends with Kenya Power and Lightning. In fact, nowadays in Kenya there's a famous quote kwamba when it rains, saile sisi tunatoa nguo, Kenya Power pia inaanua wire. Power just goes off. It is something that you must find a way of fixing, and it goes beyond policies. There must be a deliberate. I think there's a deliberate attempt by some officers in Kenya Power to disallow connection of power. That is why they visit your house on a Friday, disconnect power so that they get something, and then again when you reconnect is when they can restore the supply. Number two is on revenue collection by Kenya Power and meter reading. You find Kenya Power staff having to dodge vicious dogs in people's compounds, yet you can actually use technology to do meter reading and give estimates on what should be built. Thank you.
Davis, can the answers be as brief as the questions?
I'll be brief, Chairman. Income, Chairman, as I declared, is accurate. In 2022, I earned 3 million between January and March from my previous sources, as indicated from 2021.